Welcome everybody. Now, I have invited other members to speak at this meeting if they wish to and come to the table, but on the active silly thing as opposed to the other elements. So if you'd like to come to the table, Apple, by all means do. And you're not allowed to vote. You can by all means stick your hand up, but it won't make any difference. Okay. And I think Abel is fully aware of that, Colin, thank you. Which, agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Ted.
Item 4, I am a trustee of the golf club.
Discretionary rate relief, okay. Any others? I have no urgent...
Yeah, there is an urgent item.
Oh, there is an urgent item, yes. Where is it then?
Community fund is urgent, isn't it?
Oh, yes,
Chairman, if in the discretionary rate relief there's any mention of the museum, then I shall leave the chamber.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Yes, we have an urgent the late paper, the community fund, which I'll hand over to
Thank
Sue.
you, Chairman. I'll be very brief about this. I apologise for the lateness of the item. There was a mix-up over the website and the information contained in there which confused the applicant, and I asked the Chairman if he'd take this as an urgent item. I think, in actual fact, the applicant felt this fund was much larger than it is. I think he mixed it up with a fund that is provided by Community Services, and I will advise him of that when I provide him with your response. But in essence, St Martin's Cricket Club are rebuilding their pavilion.
Well, it's Colin. You can't. Yeah. However, you're effectively sitting over there for this one, if you like. Okay.
Thank you. They are rebuilding their pavilion and are looking for some funds. It will provide some community elements, storage for the school sports equipment and such like, and an available space for children's parties, etc. And the fund stands, as you can see on page 2, at 6, at 1,750. Thank you, Chairman.
Can I just ask a question? This is set at, I think it's 3,500 annually, isn't it?
Yes, Chairman, the total of the account is shown on 6. It's 3,500. You've given £500 to the Christmas lights. The Isles of Scilly Folk Club got 500 and Telegraph Tower got 750.
So if it doesn't get spent this year, it's the same amount next year?
It's £3,500 next year, Chairman.
Okay, so there's no rollover. I think that might be useful to know. Councillor Mrs Grottick.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Well, I think you've just answered my question, because obviously in the current financial climate, the 151 officer has quite rightly suggested that actually we try not to spend any money, and yet here we are with a legitimate request for some funding. So I would just like a bit more clarification about whether this fund is to continue, is to disappear, is ring-fenced, is not ring-fenced, and as a member, obviously we have to weigh up all the competing arguments for and against. Is it possible we could have some advice, please?
Yes. Who are you actually directing that question to?
Oh, perhaps with respect to Mr Brown, because he's
okay.
actually said please don't spend any money, and I can understand why he says exactly that. And now here we come, and I'm trying to take his advice. On the other hand, I would also like to support a very valuable community resource. So I think this is the beginning of a very long, steep path, and I think perhaps a little bit of clarification might be extremely useful. Thank you.
Okay, so there's an annual budget of £3,500 for the community fund. That is continuing into the future financial years. There's a balance of 1,750. All I would advise to members is that the maximum you would be able to commit to this financial year is the amount that's remaining in the budget, which is 1,750, and then future allocations up to the maximum of the budget, which is 3,500. The application is for 10,000 from what I can see, but I would advise against allocating that. You simply don't have the finances to be able to allocate that amount of money, and the budget is only 3,500 per year.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, thank you. I was slightly bemused that this request came to this committee anyway. I thought normally it came to community services, but that's a small point. On the basis that this money has already been allocated for this year, I don't have a problem with us taking some money from it this year. However, I would like a review of the fund for the future, because it could well be we decide we just simply cannot afford to have this fund. But as I say, for this financial year, we're dealing with the situation as is. And I would support a small donation.
I'm inclined to agree with you on that, and we had a conversation yesterday with Mrs. Montpelloki regarding assessing lots of these, coming back to FAS at a later date, regarding assessing a lot of these sort of discretionary, odd little payments we make, which have just gone on forever and nobody quite knows why, perhaps sometimes. Are there any other comments?
Yes, please, Chairman. Chairman, obviously, I would be fully supportive of actually giving a small amount to the Smartest Cricket Club to take this their plans forward. Obviously, 10,000 is completely out of the question. We have to work within the limits of the 1,750 that we have currently within the budget. I would just like to say, and it's made clear in the application form, that this will be has a much wider use than just the St Martin's Cricket Club. It is used as an island facility, and I'd also like to draw members' attention to the amount of, actually, they've raised 24,500 locally already, which is a significant amount of money, and I think, as they say, every little helps. So I would certainly, I would like to propose we actually give them 1,000, Chairman.
Okay, fair enough. I think Andy.
Thank you, Chairman. Mrs. Saville took the words right out of my mouth. I'll second that. I would propose £1,000 as well.
Absolutely.
Can I just add, I'm sorry, I know there were some plans at some point, but I don't think I've seen them. If there are any toilet facilities there, could we condition it that they be available to the public? Because we do have a problem with the state of the public toilets.
I would imagine we can't constrain this type of thing.
It came to planning in various guises, and that aspect of it was withdrawn.
I did remember something about that now. Okay, fine.
So I think we've had a proposal and a seconder. All those in favour of £1,000 donation? I think that would be unanimous. Thank you.
Chairman, but I'd like to reiterate my comments about we review all these things.
I think that, it'd be useful to have that minuted, because we do need to assess this another phase later, and possibly not later in this year. Which brings me to internal audit report. Yeah. So I have so many bits of paper here.
Shall I do the introduction? Yeah. Thank you, Chairman. Please, members, if members can note this: the report is in supplement pack 3. For whatever reason, the wrong sets were published in the first round of publication of papers. I give the apologies of the internal auditors who are actually at the airport, but haven't managed to get to Scilly this morning. So apologies for that. As members will recall, the internal auditors, is a new company, is Gateway Internal Audit. It's a company that was identified through a procurement exercise that was conducted earlier this year, and they were the successful bidders on that procurement exercise. The internal audit will go through a number of stages, and in front of you is the first stage of the internal audit. And there are 2 recommendations with this. I take the report as read, and the first recommendation is that members note the audit plan provided by Gateway Ashore, and secondly, that members consider the management responses with regards to the first block that has now been conducted by the internal auditors.
Are there any comments? Ted?
Yeah, I've read through this in detail, obviously, and I realised that over the past several years, we have been in the invidious position of not being able to afford IT and what have you, but there are some significant recommendations within this report about IT. My question really is there a likelihood that there is any source of funding that we could dip into to update our IT? We're getting to the stage now where it's almost steam driven and it's shackling our own advance forward. I've not come across any yet. I just wonder whether any of the officers or the 151 officer had come across any pots of money anywhere that we're likely to be able to dip into.
I'll answer that. Thank you, Councillor Molson, for that issue. Quite rightly, I think the internal auditors identified both the quality of our IT infrastructure, but most importantly, the risk that poses in terms of security. So therefore, we've worked very closely as part of the collaborative arrangements with our neighbouring council, Cornwall Council, and have included, as members adopted on the 27th of September, a package of systems upgrades and systems support. We are currently in discussion with the Department for Communities and Local Government to identify a capital investment into the update and upgrade of both IT, IS and IM structure systems going forward.
This is going to be a significant amount of money we're talking about if we replace it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we're confident we will be able to identify this through external sources.
Okay.
Councillor Mrs. Scrutiny.
Thank you, Chair. Just a brief comment about page 10, 2.5. And obviously, Councillor Molson has just flagged another strategic challenge about the IT systems, which hopefully will be sorted. I would just ask that Finance, Audit and Scrutiny just monitor the significant strategic challenges that are mentioned, because, for example, if you're a committee chair and a member of Finance, Audit and Scrutiny, but you don't sit on TEDI, then, for example, it's quite difficult to keep up to date with something, for example, like the ongoing progress of the Smart Island initiative. So it's just finding a way, really, of hoping that we can all keep as up to date as possible. Obviously, one can go to TEDI meetings, I do accept that.
I'm not sure which page 10 you mean. I can't find a 2.5 on my page 10. But,
Executive summary, page 10, item 2.5.
Oh, sorry, yeah, okay, fair enough.
Chairman, I think some of that, obviously we are working on the new governance arrangements for council, and if that is taken forward, some of those issues would be resolved if all decisions, strategic decisions, are taken by council. I think that would actually be beneficial in communicating to all members what is happening across the whole council, rather than us working in the present little silos that we do at the moment. I think so, but yeah.
Well, okay, Colin, I was actually, it was really proactive city, but by all means, say something.
Short question. Will this IT update make our systems compatible with Cornwall Council?
I think it would be basically we will have the same system, so I would hope that they will be compatible.
Yeah.
Are there any other comments?
Chairman, can I just say, I think, the upgrading the IT systems is key to rectifying an awful lot that's in this document. And as we all know, we have spoken about it previously, but fortunately, we do seem to have a way forward. So I think we should all take heart
Yes.
from that. So, but a lot of the information security, everything actually is hinges on proper IT system.
Perhaps I could ask Andy, is your gear over there any good?
Funny enough, the council itself, Cornwall Council, was just yesterday approved a major investment in IT. It's very good compared to, I think, the systems that you have here, which is the critical bit. I mean, we, as the Cornwall Council is actually just undertaking a sort of modernisation programme itself. This council is many years behind where Cornwall Council is, so it's got a lot to catch up and invest on. And as the Chief Executive says, what the negotiations with DCLG are doing are securing that external funding to allow that investment to happen. And I just put a bit of caution on there, because if we're not successful in securing that, but it's very positive at the moment, then there will be an issue because of securing funding ourselves, which we don't have, to be able to undertake that investment. So all your eggs in one basket in terms of funding from DCLG. It's critical that we secure that funding to enable that investment to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to endorse the need for this an updated system, and to endorse all the efforts that I know the Chief Executive has been making in conversation with DCLG, also with LGA, about how critical this is. A lot of hard work is going on about this in the background. Unfortunately, it's the sort of hard work you don't see any results until you actually get a new system in place, but there we go.
Colin.
Chairman, if we don't secure the funding, is it possible to borrow from the bank for this?
I'm sure it would be. Yes, go on.
So just on that, if we don't secure the funding, and I think we've got to think positive that we will, if we don't secure the funding, then clearly there's business cases that I'm preparing on the financial systems and the improvement that needs to happen there, and we're looking to secure funding for that. And there's also a business case on the improvements to the IS and IM infrastructure. If we don't secure that funding from DCLG, then those business cases will have to come back here, and the implications in terms of approving that investment, borrowing will be one potential route to go and try and finance that investment, but that will have to come as a specific decision and be understood in terms of the full implications around going down that investment and the knock-on impact of having to fund that investment on the rest of the council. But as I say, positivity around securing the money from DCLG.
Chair.
Yes, I just want to stress the fact that the alternatives to DCLG assistance will be very onerous for our council and put us in an invidious position.
Yeah, I think, well, like you said, don't put all your eggs in one basket, but I think we can be moderately hopeful. Are there any other comments? Because otherwise I'd like to...
I will propose recommendations, Chairman.
There's both recommendations. All those in favour? Unanimous, okay, which brings us to the next agenda item, which is the Normandy Pool and the gym, I believe. Agenda
Discretionary rate.
Oh, discretionary rate number 4, isn't it? Yes. Amanda, thank you.
Members asked me at the last meeting when we discussed discretionary rate relief to bring you back a fully fledged policy. We've since had further information from CLG, which means that pretty much all of our businesses, rural businesses, that got our discretionary rate relief will now be captured in the 100% mandatory rate relief, which will be in place from April 2017. This year. So my suggestion in the policy is that we continue giving discretionary rate relief to charities and community interest companies, because to be honest it's £7,000, but it probably brings in much more in terms of goodwill and support, and actually the work that they do as voluntary and community groups is really, really important, more important probably than the £7,000 we support them with, and that we mop up, if that's the right word, what we would have given with discretionary rate relief for rural businesses through the mandatory, because I think, having looked at our rateable values, every business that we've given discretionary rate relief will be captured 100% in the rural rate relief, or the ordinary rate relief for small businesses. Too many rate reliefs in there altogether.
Right, Councillor O'Neill. Oh, is it? Oh, Fran.
Just a quick ask. 7,000, which, as you so rightly say, probably brings back just, is a relatively small amount. I think it's a very good central government decision, which will be very helpful to small businesses. Can I just ask, some of that 7K, 7,000, for example, with regard to a community interest company, would surely come back from central government if they consider, is there not something called a transitionary grant or something?
Are you talking about the safety net?
No, the rate relief.
Yeah, we do get some of that rate relief back through the safety net mechanism,
Yeah.
but not for the discretionary rate relief. But because it's so small in the grand scheme of things, and
You're
because
comfortable.
I'm comfortable that 7,000 is probably well spent, to be honest. And I think withdrawing it would have a much bigger negative impact than the positive impact on our bottom line of £7,000, if that makes sense to members.
Completely. Councillor O'Neill.
Yeah, thanks, Donna. Sorry for being stupid again on
No,
a regular basis, but so are we suggesting then, which is what I know some of us were hoping for at the last meeting, but I'm glad to see that you've been able to clarify what will happen to the other businesses. What we're suggesting is that we're going to continue to pay discretionary rate relief to charities, non-profit organisations.
Yeah, and sports clubs.
Which I consider to be a
Yeah,
community,
yeah.
whatever
Things.
you want to call it, club, service, band of brothers. Yeah?
Yeah.
That's what we're...
Yeah.
In that case, I will propose that.
Thank you.
And I will second that, Chairman.
Well, all those in favour? I don't believe there's going to be any against. So unanimous then. Which now does bring us to agenda item 5. Right, we finally get to this one which we had to defer from the last meeting due to the issue with figures, and this is essentially a scrutiny on the business case and perhaps even the future of the pool and the gym. We can't talk about the sports hall really because we don't know the situation with the school and academy, etc. So that's a conversation for another day. Do you have any comment?
Yes, thank you, Steve, for inviting me to the table. And I do realise I can't vote on anything. I would like to speak up for Active Silly. I think it's to be encouraged to keep the gym and the pool. I think we need to do more to encourage the 60-plus age group to take part more, and I strongly believe that we should have a meeting, as suggested in 2.3 on page 34, to have a meeting with the doctors, the NHS, Age UK, and maybe the new physio. And I don't see any reason why that can't be done soon, to put something forward to encourage more elderly people to go down there. To keep the elderly more active so they can stay in their own homes is very, very important. And I'm sure that there are people down there that, the people who work there are trained and could help the elderly to use various machines, or even do perhaps an exercise class down there and make a small charge, and to bring in a little bit more funding. And the same perhaps with the pool. I think the pool is quite well used, but I think it could be used more if more elderly people were encouraged to go. And I think we need the doctor's input on this and help. And we also need the Active Silly manager, Tess, to come to a meeting. And I would like to propose, or I'd like someone else to propose, that we have a meeting, because I can't propose that. Maybe Councillor Grottick, who I believe is in favour of this, would like to comment.
Yes, Fran.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to come in on this one. I think the Chairman, if I could just go back a little bit into the recent past, the Chairman of Finance, Audit and Scrutiny rightly, on January the 10th, deferred this item from coming to Finance and Audit and Scrutiny on the 10th because we needed more information. I would respectfully suggest that although we've got some more information, we actually haven't still got one or two pivotal items of information that would be very helpful to us in making a decision. Fortunately, we didn't discuss the report that we had on January 10th because there is one clear anomaly in that on January the 10th we were told, please note the total cost to the authority for the service is believed to be in excess of 240,000. Today's paper, happily, on page 34, although it's obviously still very expensive in overall terms, but there are obviously cost-benefit analysis to be worked through, notes that the total cost to the authority is 172,000. I believe it's something to do with the way we actually apportion the income against the service. So in other words, in many ways, these figures are a work in progress. I would also respectfully suggest again that sometimes the figures are very difficult to actually understand because we have to be a little bit circumspect. For example, if I could use as an illustration the school usage, over the last year, because of the difficulty of fitting swimming into the curriculum, the school didn't actually use the pool very much. The reason that they didn't use the pool very much when I asked was that the national curriculum requirement is quite modest. You only have to be able to swim 25 metres, which is not a very great distance. However, if you fall overboard, it's pretty important. So the reason that the school didn't use the service is actually because of the service of splash tots. Now, if you've actually been to splash tots, it's absolutely fantastic. Very small people get very water confident very quickly and very quickly learn to swim 25 metres. So a figure that might look like an underusage by the school is actually because of the early years provision that we have supported for so long. So I'm sorry to take so much of your time, members, but I would just say a lot of these figures do need further evaluation and study before we can actually come, I think, to a meaningful decision. I do support Councillor Mumford's suggestion. I'm happy to take that forward. I believe we need a little bit more time, not a lot of time. I do understand that we have to make savings and we have to make them in the short term. But I do think we need more engagement with partners, the more proactive engagement. I know we've had, I believe, informal discussions with NHS colleagues. I know they don't have much money, but I think we need a more structured consultation process with the school, which everyone knows is seeking a new status. We need more formal engagement with our health colleagues. We also need to look, I think, at engaging with the community. Now, we did send out for expressions of interest, but we sent out for expressions of interest immediately prior to Christmas, when quite a lot of people are away from the islands, and the expression of interest had to be in by January the 9th, which was pretty tight for people who might have been away visiting family. We also didn't offer, within the, I believe, Mrs. Montpellier can perhaps confirm this, we didn't actually intimate that there might be a degree of support from the Council to anyone who wanted to take this forward. Just on the simple matter of rates, community interest companies do not pay business rates, and there is a recharging and a transitional grant or some way in which it wouldn't disadvantage the Council. We should be paid back for the rate relief that we would give, and it's quite a large amount. Next year in April there's going to be a re-evaluation by the district valuer, I believe, but I've asked, and the pool especially is not going to be, I understand, revalued. It'll be the same amount of rates, and there will be a modest increase in the sports, and it's expected there will be a modest increase in the rates payable on the gym and the sports hall. But there's also the question, and it's been said here, due to the fact Active Scilly is treated as a separate business unit, it has not been possible to provide accurate financial income and expenditure figures for the pool and gym separately. I think perhaps we really need to understand, even if we could have the best guess, it would be helpful. Also, we haven't had any figures as to the cost of remedial monies that we might have to pay if we discontinued any part of the service. I think we do need, again, to have some idea of what we might have to pay if we discontinue the service. So all in all, I think we've got many unanswered questions. I understand a lot of work has gone into it. We did agree last March that we would attempt to save 50,000, and I don't think that is at all unrealistic. I think we should continue possibly to do that, but I do think we should move forward and try and drill down, to use that phrase, into the figures we've been given, and also ask for a few more figures so that we really know where we are. So can I suggest a proposal that we defer any definite and binding decision on the active SILI provision until we have engaged further with partners and until members have further information around the business costs and the remedial costs that might be incurred in any cessation of any
I think all we can do is defer it till this afternoon, really. However,
well, with respect, Chairman, I don't see how we're going to get... We can't certainly engage with our partners before this afternoon, and we certainly can't have
no, what I'm talking about is that the full council will be making some decisions this afternoon. I'm not... Yeah, but absolutely, yeah. If you
but are we not making a recommendation? We
are making a recommendation, yeah, that's
my
fine.
proposal would be that we recommend to full council that we pause the process of consideration in order to facilitate greater financial information, the remedial costs that might be incurred in the cessation of any areas of service provision, and further engagement with possible partners, and a re-advertising of the possibility of members of the community becoming interested. Please, somebody remind me of the formal
Expression
term.
of interest.
Yeah,
Expression of interest. Yeah. Sorry, that was very wordy.
I think you're next, Colin.
Thank you, Sharon. All the lobbying I've had, and I suppose other councillors the same, from members of the public, has been about the pool. There's been nothing I've received pleading for the gym. So I think we've got to separate those two costs in some way and try and keep the pool open and not have it dragged down by the gym.
I think it's the other way round, actually, perhaps, in terms of cost. I don't think the gym is possibly
Well, do you think the gym makes a profit?
I don't think it makes a profit, but it's certainly much less costly than the gym.
Therefore, it's adding to the losses. So, although we might be able to go along with some sort of loss for the pool, I think we need to be able to understand the finances of that. I mean, it's all very well to guess at what the result might be, but I wouldn't like to close a pool on the results of a guess. I think we've got to know what we're doing, and then we can make a proper decision that people will understand.
I think I guess it's pushing it a little. I mean, you can't disaggregate figures, but I imagine it does seem fairly obvious that the pool will be more expensive to run than the gym. I think it's Ted.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got a great deal of sympathy with what Councillor Grottick and Councillor Mumford and, for that matter, Councillor Daly have said. However, I think we're in a situation where the cost of running all the facilities is going to be a major drag on council, and rather than prolong the fateful day, I think we ought to be thinking in terms of a strategic decision now, so that we can actually put our finances in order. In the respect of that, we have certainly talked about a community interest company and hiving it off with part of that £172,000 that is mentioned within the report. We could possibly provide some sort of subsidy and bring the running of that into a community group that would be a less financial burden to us. I think there is a strong case that we need to do this now rather than defer it.
Amanda,
okay.
Yeah, thank you. I have a lot of sympathy with the idea that the invitation for expression of interest was not well handled. I think we've all gone over that one, we understand that. What does occur to me is, given the amount of oxygen that generated,
Yes.
Nobody has come forward subsequently. And yet I don't think there's anybody in Scilly who isn't aware of it now. And so, I think there's been plenty of time for people to come along and say, well, what if? Dates and deadlines never put anybody off, in my experience. There is plenty of scope also to put the expression of interest out again in parallel with any decisions we make, because it's not as though we're going to say the pool will close tomorrow. There will be plenty of time to put this in. What strikes me is we had a well-attended public meeting on Saturday in this chamber, which was extremely well advertised in all the modern ways of advertising on social media and all the sites. There were the traditional means as well of the posters and things. The age range of the people who attended that meeting was significant. The youngest person there must be mid-40s, late 40s. No young... Sorry? 42. All right, thank you for that information. In their 40s. No young people came forward to debate, discuss the finances of the council or to put ideas forward. I think that is entirely regrettable. On the subject of Active Scilly, I have seen, or rather, I was going to say I've had 3 letters. That's not true. I've had 4 letters because one person wrote to me twice. 3 people, or 3 letters have been received about the pool. That is all for the total population. No young people, although they were represented by a letter which came from the school, no younger people have contacted the council. It isn't enough to express opinions on social media. It isn't enough to approach councillors. People actually have to show or manifest their opinions in the proper way. And I am struck by the complete absence of any information from younger people. I think that is worrying and significant. It isn't just about Active Scilly, it's a problem we face across the board.
Also on social media, the comments were about the timing of the EOI, expressions of interest, as opposed to...
Yeah, I'm aware of that. So it is disheartening. If we delay this and continue to delay this, we have, after all, been talking about the principle about this for a very, very long time. Nobody wishes to close these services. But we cannot continue to live above our means. If we delay this now, we are just delaying the inevitable.
Chris, I believe.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I come to this as the current Chairman of the Health and Wellbeing Board and the Council's representative on the Sustainable Transformation Board, which is all about prevention and health and wellbeing. I think, to a certain extent, the debate so far has been all about money, which, is really important. But we should actually evaluate the other benefits that Active Scilly bring to the table. And my feeling is we're not in a position as the FAS committee to make a decision. It's not in our authority to do so today. We can make a recommendation to council.
No, absolutely.
I think we should go out on 3 prongs on this. We should go out again for an expression of interest, including that we are willing to actually support any expressions to a certain level financially. I think we should also be talking to our partners at the same time to draw in, if possible, some financial support for them. And I think they should be encouraged, because I think the more we as an authority enable people to keep active, the less will be falling, costs will be falling to the National Health Service. So I think those things should certainly be going on at the same time, as we say. Going forward to, and then obviously, if both of those, come to a closed door, then I think we have really got to consider it really very seriously. But I think, it's not all about money. It is about prevention and keeping people healthy. And none of us, I hope, value anything above our health. because it is key to everything that we participate in, enjoy, etc. in life. So, Chairman, those are my thoughts.
Okay, go on.
Right, Chairman, I back the Vice Chairman on this, but it's not just a case of health. I was brought up at a seaside town. Most of my contemporaries learnt to swim in a swimming pool, because there comes a time with some people where swimming can save their life, and I think it is vital that everybody should be taught to swim, and I don't think that we should easily close down the pool. I've had several representations on this. I think most people have made the case round the table for their point of view, but I cannot overemphasize the fact that a person must learn to swim. I've found it useful. I'll say no more.
I'm sure many of us have found it useful being able to swim, Gordon, but I'm
glad every day, more or less.
Yeah. Every second of every day. Councillor O'Neill.
Thank you. I do agree to a certain extent with the Chairman of the Council's comments. However, I would like to feel that at this stage I'm reluctant to use the word inevitable. I prefer to endorse Councillor Savile's comments and say that until such time as we have exhausted every option, then we should not accept it. Beyond that, I would also just like to say, just to be a pain really, that not for the first time I'm disappointed to see that this report has not been signed off by anybody.
Yeah, I had noticed that. However, it is, I mean, if you look at the recommendation, it's...
Yeah,
yeah.
I know I can.
Yeah.
But there's a reason it should be signed off by three members of the senior management of the council, isn't there?
Councillor Mrs Mumford.
Yes, I agree with Councillor Savile in all that she said, and I think maybe this afternoon we will have an opportunity, will we, to propose that we can get a group of people together to discuss, you know, the NHS and the doctors and Age UK, to see if we can get the pool and the gym used a bit more. Will that come up this afternoon?
Well, it's...
It is up for discussion this afternoon.
You will be there, Adwell, if you wish to bring it up. You certainly
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I don't know, we have some sort of broad consensus. I think we have a consensus that we have to wait and see a little bit on this, and I think that is reasonable, but I don't think we should wait very long, because my view is actually we don't really have any partners at all. The NHS are not going to...
Chairman, I fully accept and understand that once we have exhausted every option, we will have to face the inevitable, but I do not believe we're there yet.
Yes, I know. I understand that, but I think there is a consensus that we need to wait a little bit before we make a decision.
Can I put things a little bit into context? Clearly, members are aware, following last year's budget discussions, we tried to identify an alternative method of delivering the leisure facilities, if you like. And as part of that process, we started to develop a business plan. An option analysis was conducted, and the option that was pursued was to see how we can move the label leisure activities, if you like, and to have those activities very much integrated as part of health and well-being and a very strong prevention label to move forward. Unfortunately, we didn't quite complete the full detailed business plan within the time available to bring to members, but the start was made to develop the business plan based on a very different set of products that can be offered through, call it Active Silly label, but the imperative need for that was to have it totally integrated with health and education partners. It cannot be delivered just by the local authority on its own, and it needs to be a package of products that targets both the young and the old and the middle group, if you like. So what this paper does, it is not really making a decision on an option. It is identifying what policy choice members wish to make going forward. I'm very much aware that each of those areas need a lot more work in terms of detail, both in terms of articulating what it looks like, but also in terms of the cost and how it can be funded. The financial details provided in the paper, which require a contribution from this authority in the region of between 170 and 200,000 pounds per annum, are based on the fact how we run it at the moment and how we start to bring in some additional income in the facility. Since the start of the business plan, of course, what has happened and has created an opportunity is around retail. As a council, we haven't developed any retail offer yet around the healthy living, healthy activities going forward with the council. And there might be an opportunity to do some further investigation and options to see whether some of the gap that has emerged in the market by the closure of sports mode can deliver additional income going forward. I don't know if it will, but it's worthwhile
Can I
considering.
just caution that a little bit? I think there's about 400 users for Active Silly. If they all spend 100 quid a year on gear, that's 40,000 quid. With 30% profit, you're looking at maybe 8, 9, maybe 10 grand. It'd be a very, very tough call to make a considerable sum of money on that basis.
Yeah. But I think
possibility.
It would be worthwhile to get a sense of the policy direction members wish to take this, and then we can work up further details going forward.
I think Amanda.
Yeah, I want to make it quite clear to members and to anybody who's listening, is that these are not decisions that we take lightly. Whatever the outcome of this is, there is no desire to deprive the community of facilities. However, I would point out that many of the facilities we have arrived under council auspices by quirks of fate rather than by design. And this, is particularly in terms of the pool, is one of the problems we've got now. If the local authority had chosen to build and install a pool, it would have done it very, very differently. We are dealing with something that has happened almost, we've morphed into this situation. We have to be very careful for the future, and I do defend what I said about the inevitable. I'm sure we have to try every avenue possible to keep these facilities working with partners and whatnot. They have not expressed anything other than the fact that they have no budgets to us so far when they have been approached. What I would like to see is we set a deadline whereby something has to happen many months in the future, but something for our partners to focus on, something for our community to focus on, that if they do not come forward with ideas, be it partners, be it the community, then the inevitable will happen. We cannot go on maintaining these facilities without any kind of target date in mind. We really cannot afford it.
I concur with the chair on that.
Amanda's virtually said what I was about to. I don't think we can sit and fiddle while Rome burns. We've got a situation of a financial black hole that we would all like to plug straight away. However, on top of that, there is a huge feeling, not just within this chamber, but within the whole community, that we don't want to lose the facilities. I would strongly urge what Amanda has just said, that we need to set deadlines on this so that we can actually make decisions and move forward, rather than sit and talk about minor detail. This is a strategic decision overview which is going to affect the whole of the council. It is not something that we can shy away from by deferring time after time after time.
Yes, I completely agree. And one distinct advantage of taking it forward a little bit, and I don't mean by a huge amount of time, is once the school's situation resolves itself, we will have a much clearer idea regarding the actual gym itself. And we had a meeting with Tess last week, And her view is, and she was very, very realistic, I would say, but she thinks the gym just about washes his own face. And I would imagine that that probably is the case. It's one room with some gearing. So we really are, I think, discussing the pool in this today, really, more than anything else. Chris?
Chairman, can I just, I think I'm right in saying, and actually the paper that comes to Council later this afternoon actually doesn't list this as a saving for next year.
I noticed that.
We have 50,000 on that.
Yeah, we have 50,000 on that, which was, that's on sport, that's the whole, across all the board. That is what we have been told in all the workshops that we have been attending, that the saving would be 50,000 in the year going forward. So I think, hopefully, you know, I'm having trouble looking at these fees and charges and making sense of it. I did actually look a few, months ago now, to see if I could actually see the charges on our website, and I couldn't find the charges for Active Silly anywhere on our website, which I think is, you know, they should be for any visitor who's actually on the islands and might wish to use them. The website is the first place to go to. So I think I stand by, I do agree with the chairman that I think, you know, there does have to be a deadline to this, but I do firmly believe that there is work that can be done in the meantime. I think looking at the fees, if I've understood them correctly, you know, most people who value these services can afford to be increased, I think, and I think we need to look at that when we come to fees and charges at a later time.
Would you like to clarify the 50? 'Cause I must admit, I'm not altogether clear on it.
Yeah, I just for some clarity, really. So the budget savings paper that we are discussing this afternoon at the full council meeting, there is a long list of savings, and there is a target of 50,000 savings to be made from future changes, whatever they may be, in terms of the operational arrangements for the current council leisure facilities. Now, what I've said in that paper as well is that we need to immediately, for next financial year, deliver at least £500,000 worth of savings, realising the time lag to deliver those changes around the leisure facilities. That 50,000 is not one of those options to be put forward for next financial year. So, although yes, there is some time, I would then echo what the chairman is saying in terms of there is clearly a need here for some strategic direction on what the council is going to do with these leisure facilities, because that 50,000 will need to be made at some point in time in the future, and therefore you'll have to consider those options and make a clear decision on which option the council is going to go down in regards to those facilities.
Thank you. Amanda?
Yeah, just to add, I should have said before, I really do thank the people who wrote in to the council. Certainly one of, well, in fact both of them in different ways I followed up, but one I followed up with a phone conversation. And what struck me was people's understanding of the plight we're in. They are very balanced, very nuanced letters. The community understands, I think, the problems we face. But all I can do is urge more people to contact us.
Well, in terms of moving forward today, oh, sorry, Colin.
There is another aspect to this question of the gym and the pool. On each of the islands there is a gym, and ones on the off islands are self-sustaining and carry on. But all of the islands use the pool, and I think they would be very sorry, as well as the St Mary's residents, to see that facility go.
I'm sure they would. Do we have any other comments?
Do you want a proposition?
Yeah. Yes. We do need some sort of proposal, but I just wanted to reiterate, there seems to be a consensus here that that there's a timeline on this, and I think essentially that's what we really need to decide now is the timeline.
I would like to propose that there is a full set of papers so that we can make a strategic decision about the pool by August.
Well, perhaps maybe the end of the summer term, because that's...
Sorry?
The end of the summer term, because that's a good cut-off.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm quite happy to accept that.
I think that's reasonable.
I'll second that.
So, and that gives a little bit of time for for partners to come forward.
Sorry, Chairman, but respectfully, Councillor Molson, would you be willing to slightly amend the proposal to, at least in some way, include some of the suggestions from both Councillor Mumford and Councillor Grottick? Because otherwise I see the danger, potential, to simply being presented with the same papers again, saying, we've looked at it, it can't be done, this is the inevitable, we've got to shut the pool.
Yes.
What needs to be done between now and whenever the deadline is to address the issues that have been discussed.
In consultation with
Yes, we need a reasonable recommendation on this, I agree.
I think that's a valid point, and there's a few things I've picked up on here, and from what Councillor Grottick was saying as well, that clearly for you to make those decisions, you need to be informed, and the one option on here about, and I know no member wants to go down that route, potentially closing the facility. What you haven't got here is the costs of closing that facility and the implications. So before you can make that decision, and I welcome the timeline that you're giving, but you do need to have that full option appraisal in terms of if you're going to go and close that facility, what's the cost?
I will amend it to with full options and in consultation with the relative bodies that Councillor Mumford and Councillor Grottick were, and Councillor Saville.
And complete figures. If it's not possible to disentangle the figures, then, as Councillor Grottick said earlier the nearest reasonable estimate of those figures.
I will make a commitment to breaking those figures down, because we can break them down, given enough time.
To be fair to anybody who didn't express an interest, any one of us coming forward to run a facility would want an itemisation of the figures as much as possible. So, I will second the full.
The more complicated one. Can I ask Andy Thomas what we've said?
Yes, because I don't think it incorporates all that we have wanted to be done.
That you get a full set of papers be presented probably September, I think. September Council, you thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that it looks at whether or not you basically close it or keep it open and full costings.
No, that's not the recommendation.
I'm paraphrasing. Okay. So
with full
to save the active city functions?
With full options.
Analysis.
And full options analysis and full costings in consultation with everybody that Councillor Mumford, Councillor Grottick and Councillor Saville mentioned.
And as separate facilities.
Yeah.
Of the both facilities.
But separate.
Yes.
Bear in mind, this is a recommendation to full council.
It is.
It has no more than that. And
We have in that recommendation haven't included going out again for an expression of interest, because that is different to working with partners.
Yeah, it is, but that's why I put full options analysis, because that comes in as part of
but I agree with Councillor Saville, because that's what I said earlier. There's nothing to stop going out for a full an expression of interest now in parallel. In fact, we don't need a recommendation for that. We just need to do it.
Yes.
Well, the community is one of the partners. It's inherent, isn't it?
Nonetheless.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Let's just do it. There's no reason not to do it.
Councillor Grottick.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just confirm briefly that the full options analysis, as described, will include the remedial costs of closing each of the differing parts of the facility, and a discussion, for example, around the business rates issue of any community interest company and any support that we might be... In other words, the full picture.
Yeah. Can I suggest that what we do is we break it down into all sections, so ownership, because we don't own the pool, we rent it from Devon and Cornwall Housing, then the remediation costs of each of the sites, plus then a breakdown of all the figures across the sites with their business rates, and then the full gamut. I think we can do that. We can break those figures down.
I don't think this is part of the recommendation, but in terms of the EOI, it wasn't made very clear. I think we're on quite reasonable grounds that that the council would be putting some money in to help anybody else who took that on. And I think we should make it clear now that there will be, if somebody wishes to take on any of these facilities, the council will slip them a few quid to enable the process.
Chairman, can I just ask Mr. Brown something that's just... Diana's just said that's got my mind thinking. Would the council be allowed to accept sponsorship?
Yeah. I mean, and in terms of the options appraisal that comes back, and from what the chair was saying, in terms of any operation, then how much the council is going to grant to that operation also needs to be considered in the whole picture. So in terms of we are looking to save X amount of money, we will still have an element of budget left to be able to contribute to whatever facility is running going forward. That should be part of the option, and accepting sponsorship is also a part of an option as well.
I think that should be made known to our local businesses as well.
I meant to make this point earlier on, but some of you may know, others may not, but Penzance Council, I think that's what it is, has basically given up with that hugely marvellous pool they have in Penzance, and I think they've given you